When it comes to luxury sports sedans, there was a time where Acura offered two models known as the TL and TSX. Now, nearly a decade ago, we saw Acura combine both vehicles to create the TLX, and back in 2021, we saw an all-new second generation. Let me tell you, when I first saw this vehicle, I thought it was one of the best-looking vehicles in the class. Now, for 2024, it's time for Acura to give this car a pretty slight refresh. You can see it's got a new fascia, it's got new wheels, it's got new tech on the inside, and as you can see this week, we are testing out this Urban Gray Pearl TLX Type S, which is the top of the spectrum. And the big question I want to answer for those of you who are looking for a well-balanced luxury sports sedan that doesn't quite break the bank, how does the refreshed 2024 TLX stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the exterior styling changes, let me tell you, they are pretty subtle this year. Let me go ahead and pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now, Acura continues to offer two different choices for powertrains in the TLX. This model here is unique, of course, to the Type S version. This is a 3-liter turbocharged direct injection double overhead cam V6. It's actually a unique engine. This isn't shared with any other Honda product. The only other product that uses this engine is the MDX Type S, and the power figures are unchanged this year. This engine still makes 355 horsepower, 354 pound-feet of torque. It's paired up with a 10-speed automatic transmission that is an Acura and Honda design transmission. The company actually says that they've tweaked the shift programming and they've improved the throttle response this year. And it also gets fuel economy that's around 19 in the city, 25 on the highway. Now that's right, of course, rated on premium gas. This has roughly a 16-gallon fuel tank. It's a little bit small considering the size and the consumption of this vehicle. You should be looking at around 300 to 350 miles of range on a full tank. Acura claims 0 to 60 time should be in the low 5-second range. We've tested it to be quicker in the pre-refresh model, so we'll do it again when we get this out on the road. It has a top speed of around 155 miles an hour, and to be honest, this engine only has a single scroll turbocharger that puts out around 15 pounds of boost. So I was actually kind of disappointed that Acura didn't turn the boost pressure up and make this thing have closer to 400 horsepower, but I guess that's what the aftermarket is for. This vehicle should have a top speed of around 155 miles an hour, and as it sits, the TLX Type S is on the heavy side because it comes standard with super handling all-wheel drive. This car here weighs in at just over 4,200 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up the hood and talk about the exterior styling of this vehicle. Now, like I said earlier in the intro, when I first saw this vehicle in the second generation, I really loved the design, and Acura has essentially just taken what is already a good look and they've made it a little bit better for 2024. As you can see, the front fascia has a new grille here. This is of course, the diamond pentagon signature grille, but it's now got like a frameless design, which I think looks a little bit cleaner. You can see the Acura logo also has been cleaned up. Before, they had kind of this plexiglass shield that houses the radar sensors and the adaptive cruise control. Now it's kind of been better integrated into the actual Acura emblem. You can see there's a Type S badge there, along with a nicely integrated camera. You can see the diamond pentagon has like an open surface design that allows more cooling to go in through to the engine to, of course, give this engine the cooling it needs. And then the headlights, you can see these are the standard jewel eye chicane style LED headlights with the daytime running light, LED turn signal. It has LED low and high beams. No fog lights on this vehicle, surprisingly, but you can see the Type S also comes standard with this more aggressive front splitter. You can also get that in carbon fiber, I believe, from the dealership as part of a dealer accessory. But this color is a new color this year. It's called Urban Gray Pearl. It's technically a Honda color, but I think it looks really good on the lines of the TLX. This car has kind of needed this kind of cement color that's very trendy, that looks good on a lot of modern sports sedans. Now you can see the front end of this car definitely has an imposing look, and that's because of the length of the hood. You can see it has these two bulging hood creases there that give this car a more muscular, kind of sportier sedan design. And overall, I still think this is an attractive vehicle. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys like the styling changes that Acura has made. Now you can see moving around the side profile, what's so appealing about the TLX is the fact that this is technically a bigger vehicle than a lot of its competitors like the Audi S4, the BMW 3 Series. At 194.6 inches long, it's around 8 to 10 inches longer than its competitors. It has a 113-inch long wheelbase. It's around 75 inches wide, so it's wider, it's taller, it's a little bit longer versus its competitors. And again, that gives the TLX a more imposing look. Now looking at the wheels, you can see the wheels have also been updated. Acura has basically slimmed down the trim lines to where you have a tech package as standard, an A-Spec, and then this Type S, which comes standard with these new Berlina black 20-inch wheels, riding on a 255 by 35 series Pirelli all-season tire. Now, I am surprised that Acura didn't go with a wider tire, because if you look at their own lineup, the Integra Type S technically that has a wider tire, so I'm surprised Acura didn't want to make this a little bit wider, but again, that's something you can go to for the aftermarket. You can see the brakes are unique to the Type S. This is a 14.3-inch rotor at the front. It's technically 1.5 inches bigger versus the standard TLX, and you can see it's clamped by a 4-piston Brembo caliper. It's painted red. It looks really good, especially with the new black wheels. If you guys remember the pre-refresh TLX Type S, I didn't particularly like the base wheel. You had to go to the Y-spoke wheel from the NSX to make it look better. Acura still offers like a copper wheel if you guys prefer a slightly different finish versus the black finish that you see over here. Now you can see, looking at the rest of the profile, the mirror is black painted, it's power folding, it has integrated turn signal mirror. A lot of the chrome trim on other trims have been replaced, of course, with black accents. And you can see here, the sunroof, this is standard on all TLX Type S models. I'm surprised that Acura is not doing a panoramic sunroof. That's something that you can get on a lot of competitors. For some reason, Acura didn't feel the need to, of course, add that feature. Moving around to the rear profile, you can see it has almost like a sportback design, but you can see this is actually just a traditional sedan. If you want a hatchback, Acura will happily sell you the Integra Type S. And then looking at the rear here, you can see the design is a little bit more the same versus the pre-refresh model. It looks almost the same to me. The spoiler you can see is unique to the Type S. You can also get this in a carbon fiber finish if you guys prefer. The taillights have that same design with the chicane full LED. You can see there's an LED turn signal, LED reverse lights, LED taillights, and brake lights. There's a lot of badging back here. You can see with the Type S badge, the TLX, and the super handling all-wheel drive badge. You can also get those in black if you guys prefer that versus the chrome look. And then down here you can see the signature quad outlet exhaust. Still looks really good. I mean, with everything else going fully electric, it's nice to see Acura is doing a quad outlet exhaust like this. And the company says it's an active exhaust. They've tweaked the sound a little bit, so let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how it sounds real quick. Now I have to admit, the Type S has a really nice sound to it. It's not quite as poppy and burbly as what you hear in the Integra Type S, but again, it complements the nice look of the quad tips. Now looking at the trunk capacity, if you want to open up the trunk, there's a little button here, right, that's nicely integrated into the taillight, and you can see it has a traditional trunk, and this is where the TLX does lose a little bit of practicality points compared to some rivals, which are hatchbacks. You get around 13.5 cubic feet of storage back here, which is fine for a sedan. You can see the hinges, they will crush your cargo, although Acura had this nice little area here that just takes up space. The seats do fold down. It looks like they fold down in a 60-40 manner, but there's actually an X-brace there that allows for additional strengthening that I believe is unique to the Type S version. And then if you look underneath here, you can see there is no temporary spare tire, it looks like. Instead, you just have the battery back here, the 12-volt battery, and you have an actual fixed flat kit with an air compressor. So kind of keep that in mind if you guys were hoping to find a spare in this vehicle. So obviously on the outside of the 2024 TLX, the changes are pretty subtle. And I have to say, when you get into the interior, the changes are also going to be even more subtle, unless of course you just got out of a 2023 version. Now, stepping inside and closing the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this car is built off of a dedicated platform that Acura says isn't shared with the Honda Accord. Now, as I get inside the vehicle, I want to show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current Acura Intelligent Access key. It even says Type S on the back of the key fob to show you have a special vehicle. I actually like the way the key looks. I like the red line that kind of goes along the key fob. It has remote engine start. It has the usual lock, unlock, open up the trunk and panic function. I don't believe Acura offers phone as a key, but you should be able to access the vehicle through your smartphone if you guys have access to the smartphone app, of course. Now, starting the vehicle up, the start-stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. And then, of course, this vehicle is not a mild hybrid or hybrid, so it has a very traditional starter noise. It has that newer Acura chime. And then what you're noticing right away when you get inside here is, of course, the new infotainment system. So you have a 20% larger screen here. This is still, of course, running on the Acura True Touchpad Interface. TTI is what they call it for short. However, the screen is now 12.3 inches versus 10.3 in the pre-refresh model. So it's a small change, but the newer screen definitely fits into the design of the dashboard. And as you can see, there's now a fully digital 12.3-inch cluster here in the instrument panel. Now, before, the TLX had a kind of a partial digital and analog design. I actually like the way that looked, because it reminded me of like an old Acura RSX. This screen, however, is pretty much the same one that you get in the NSX. You can see you can slightly customize it. That's the drive mode, of course, in normal. If I switch it to Eco or Comfort, you can see it turns into a blue display and it gets rid of the actual physical tack and speedo. Go into Sport, however, you can see it puts the tack front and center. And then if you hold the dynamic mode entirely, it goes into Sport Plus, where it gives you a boost gauge. You can also pull up things like a G meter and whatnot. So this screen is definitely a lot more modern, but some of you purists out there will probably end up preferring the old screen because of the traditional analog dials. Now, in terms of the rest of the interior, let me first talk about the door panel here. You can see the door panel has a slightly soft touch injection molded plastic. I still wish that Acura would have covered this in the same stitching as the door panel. You have some aluminum trim. You have 2-person memory seats. So the seats themselves, they adjust in 16 different ways, and they are heated and ventilated. Which is nice. You have a padded armrest here, nice contrasting stitching. The window controls, they're one touch for all 4. They feel pretty high quality and tactile. Your power folding mirror control is also over here as well, which is nice. The steering wheel, you can see, is unique to the Type S, where you have a flat bottom design, Type S badging with the contrasting stitching and perforated leather. The steering wheel itself offers a manual tilt and telescoping function with paddle shifters, of course. The one thing this car is missing, however, is a heated steering wheel. I think that's really inexcusable considering this is supposed to take some features from the advanced package and put it on this car. You can get it as a dealer accessory, but it's not standard, and it should be from the factory, especially in the colder months. This model here is missing that. In terms of the buttons, you can see you have your steering wheel controls for audio, for the Acura Watch full suite of safety tech. The horn, it sounds pretty nondescript, but at least it doesn't sound puny and too small considering the size of this vehicle. And then looking at the rest of the dashboard, you can see it's got beautiful leather stitching with the contrast stitching. This is actual real leather with some aluminum trim. I like how this kind of has like a sculpted look to it, but some of you have complained that the dash is a little bit too in your face. It's a little bit pronounced and it kind of takes up the interior space. I do kind of see that, but I also do appreciate the fact that Acura uses traditional buttons. So you can see climate control, it's got dual zone automatic climate control, it's got actual buttons for the heated and cooled seats with an automatic function. Your drive mode selector is here. It's got that push button transmission selector that controls the 10-speed auto. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full 360 camera, which includes trajectory, includes parking sensors, it includes rear cross traffic alert. The graphics also are pretty good as well, so Acura has really done a great job with upping the quality there of their camera system. You can see the true touchpad interface. This is all controlled via this little trackpad here, which the trackpad is slightly different versus what Lexus used to use because it uses one-to-one positioning. So if I touch the left quadrant of the screen here, or of the touchpad, it lights up the actual part of the screen. You can also kind of swipe to the left and swipe to the right. The downside, of course, is when you're using the CarPlay. You can see when I have it in the CarPlay function here, it functions as a traditional trackpad, which is kind of similar to what Lexus uses, and that's because of the way CarPlay works. So I have to actually scroll around like this, and I don't think this is the most intuitive. I think that Acura should have just pulled the screen forward and allowed you to use it as a touchscreen or use the trackpad. They should really give you both options, and I'm surprised they still haven't done that. I suspect if more and more owners complain, Acura eventually will make that change at some point. But most of the times, if you go back to the actual Acura system, you can see it's got embedded GPS into the vehicle, which is fine. It works okay, but I think most of you are probably going to end up using the Apple CarPlay function or the Google Maps, because the map quality, as you can see, isn't nothing super special, and it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to kind of get used to the way this works. I imagine owners find it okay, but if you're, kind of hopping in and out of the vehicle, you're not used to it, it's going to have a little bit of a learning curve. There is some ambient LED lighting in this vehicle, which I have to say, the Acura ambient lighting you can adjust via here. It offers several different themes and, of course, brightnesses. My favorite is probably this Atlantic Road, where it kind of gives you a green light. With the blue accents, there's also a red lighting. You can see it has like really nice accent lighting throughout the cabin, which I think is actually really nicely done. In terms of the rest of the dash here, you can see there's some piano black plastic here, which I don't love. This is going to show scratches and fingerprint marks. There's your auto start stop defeat button here. You have a nice volume knob here, and a lot of the buttons and controls, they have a high quality tactile feel. I appreciate how Acura didn't put the piano black onto this area here, where this is going to kind of collect fingerprints and scratches more versus this area here. You can see your wireless phone charging pad is here. It fits my iPhone 14 Pro Max nicely, and it also works pretty reliably, so I was impressed with that. Center console, you can see here, has a nice padded area where you can rest your elbows, and then you can see, open that up. It's a little bit shallow, but it's also pretty wide. You have a USB-C and a USB-A charging port, along with a 12-volt power outlet, which is nice. The headroom space, as you can see, the roof line of this car is lower, so for somebody my height, this is where I'd have it to drive. The headroom does get a little bit cramped, so if you're over 6 feet tall, you might want to try it out first to make sure you're comfortable. You can see there's just a standard sunroof here that basically opens up and closes. It has a manual sunshade, of course. And then these seats, these are the premium Milano seats that you get, of course, with the Type S. I love the contrast stitching and piping with the ultra suede, which is nice. The heated and cooled seat function works well, and these seats are also comfortable and supportive. They hold you in place nicely, so I think Acura did a good job with the seats here. These seats for me are actually better versus what you find in the Integra Type S. And then of course the sound system. This is the 16 speaker ELS Studio 3D sound system, so if you guys get tired of listening to the engine, it also has a great audio system for you audiophiles out there. So overall the interior is definitely nice. Acura added some nicer features in here like the heads-up display, but I would like to see them add a heated steering wheel as standard, and then of course make this a touchscreen by moving the screen closer up. But overall, it's still a really nice place to spend time. Now moving into the backseat space, the TLX is a big car on the outside, and you'd think that would translate into a lot of space in the backseat. Unfortunately, this is where the TLX is going to disappoint if you guys are coming from something like a Honda Accord, because the platform is unique to the Acura. The interior space ratio isn't great. So this is where I'd have the seat to drive for my driving position. Acura says there's around 34 inches of legroom back here. 34 inches is pretty tight. The Integra Type S, a smaller vehicle, has 36 inches of legroom. So kind of surprising that this is so small. You have a big hump here, of course, for your drive shaft for the super handling all-wheel drive. Acura does have rear seat air vents back here. You have 2 USB-C charging ports, but it's missing rear seat heated rear seats. That's something that Acura used to offer on the advanced package on the 2023 model, and I thought they would carry that feature over into the 2024 Type S, but sadly they did not. In terms of the materials, you can see the door panel has that same soft touch injection molded plastic where it's slightly padded, nice leather and contrasting stitching here. You have metal speaker covers for the ELS sound system. You have an aluminum accented door handle, which is nice. And then in terms of the seat here, you can see there's an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders, a little bit more storage, but overall headroom space, you can see the sunroof does take up a little bit of space, but if I sit back here, my hair isn't grazing the roof, but if you guys are over 6 feet, again, this back seat is going to feel very, very tight. So if you guys are looking at some of the competitors, you'll be surprised to know that the TLX, despite its bigger size, has a back seat that's about the same, if not smaller, than the smaller European rivals. So it's crazy to think that it's been nearly 3 years since I had a chance to drive the TLX Type S. Remember, this was the first Acura vehicle that introduced the Type S name. Since then, Acura has expanded the Type S family to the MDX, to the Integra. We had an NSX Type S for a short period of time. So obviously it's time for Acura to give this car some changes. And in terms of the driving dynamics, I'm going to focus primarily on driving this car in Sport Plus mode, because Acura says that they've adjusted the throttle response and just the overall feel of this car in Sport Plus. Remember, we still have super handling all-wheel drive. We still have that quick shifting 10-speed auto connected to a turbo V6 making 355 horsepower. Now, the last time I drove this car and I tested it, I got 4.7 seconds 0 to 60, which actually isn't too bad. It is about a half a second slower than its German rivals like the Audi and the BMW. Haven't had a chance to drive the Mercedes yet, but let's go ahead and see what we can get in this refresh model. Remember, this car is on the heavier side. It weighs in at just over 4,200 pounds, but I have it in Sport Plus. I have the transmission in sport mode as well. And let's go ahead and brake torque it and see what we can get. All right, we got 0 to 60 in 4.68 seconds. Now that is on my usual stretch of road where it's practically almost level. And that time is pretty good. It's actually about the same time as I got in this car almost 3 years ago in the 2021 model. So that doesn't surprise me. It has the same horsepower and torque. It weighs about the same. Although again, Acura is all about focusing on the tuning and the throttle response of that or of this engine when you have it in Sport Plus. And I have to say, this car feels good. I love the sound, I love the feel, I love the steering feel as well. It's nice and heavy. It gives you a good amount of responsiveness and slightly more feedback than I remembered last time driving this car. Let's try it here, except this time we won't brake torque it. We'll just floor it. Nice, smooth, and quick shifts from that 10-speed. 5.06 seconds there. Now that's with it more going slightly uphill. So basically in the real world, you'll likely get in the low 5s to high 4-second range, depending on, of course, if you brake torque it or not. But I have to say, this car, I'm on Pirelli P0 all-season tires, and the amount of sportiness that I'm getting is nice. I like how the transmission in Sport Plus is holding the gears for me. The engine is kind of on full boil with very little turbo lag. Put my foot down here. Ooh, This car feels good. I like how this car has that agile feel. Now, I will say that if you've driven the Integra back-to-back with this car, the TLX feels fat. It is a whopping 1,000 pounds heavier than an Integra Type S. It makes me wonder, how is this car so heavy? I understand it's around 8 inches longer overall. It has a V6. It has super handling all-wheel drive. But its competitors in this space, the S4, the BMW, the C43 Mercedes, are about 200 to 400 pounds lighter than the TLX Type S. So Acura should have done something to reduce the weight of this car. It is a fat pig in the segment, although I will say that it doesn't feel too much like a fat pig around corners. The body stays nice and flat for the most part. I've got adaptive dampers on this car as standard, and they're in its stiffest setting when you have it in Sport Plus. I feel very little body lean. Instead, I just feel lots of responsiveness. This car feels alert. It feels alive. It feels actually visceral. And I think Acura has done something to the sound of this engine, because I love the way the exhaust has a little bit more pops and crackles when you have it in its Sport Plus setting. Now, with super handling all-wheel drive, we'll put our foot down here. Oh yeah, it'll send power to the outside wheel to give you that torque vectoring, and that's kind of the beauty about Acura's super handling all-wheel drive system. It gives you that nice like torque vectoring. You can even pull up a display here in this new digital cluster that shows you where the torque is going. So it really does make this car fun. You can induce, oversteer in this car just by putting your foot down. And that's kind of what I love about Acura's super handling all-wheel drive. We'll try it here. This time we won't brake torque it. We'll just floor it, and this is more level, and see if we can get a consistent time. It shifts it just below or just shy of 6,000. 4.87 seconds here. So brake torquing, it does add a little bit of a boost because it allows the turbo to build up boost pressure. Remember, we have around 15.1 psi, so you're going to get maximum acceleration times when you guys brake boost it and you have it in its Sport Plus and Sport settings and all that other good stuff here. But I have it on the super handling display. I want to try pushing it again as I go around this corner. Oh yeah, that back end stepped out, and it's just fun. You can't do that in an Integra Type S, and that's what I love about Acura's SHAWD system. It is fun, it is impressive, it's one of the best all-wheel drive systems you're going to find in this segment. And on these Pirelli, all-season tires, it allows you to have a little fun. So bravo, Acura. I love the fact that you still offer a traditional sports sedan like this, and it just makes this car so engaging and so playful and so fun to drive. But let's go ahead and switch it over to the normal setting, because even though this car is a lot of fun in sport and in Sport Plus, I mean, in sport setting, this is kind of going to give you that perfect balance. It won't be quite as high-strung as in Sport Plus. The dampers get a little bit softer, but go to normal or even a comfort mode. If you go to a comfort mode here, there's also an individual setting where you can adjust things individually. It feels really nice. The dampers get nice and soft. It gets rid of the tack, though. I don't love how it gets rid of the tack. This is the same display that we have in the new MDX, of course. But overall, it just kind of reminds you that you're driving a car that is, still a luxury sedan. It has a nice smooth ride quality, even though we are on these big 20s on 35-inch tall tires, so obviously it's not going to be as smooth as the smaller or the regular TLX with a smaller wheel and tire package. But the dampers do a good job of soaking up the bumps and adjusting their firmness. Visibility out of this car is for the most part good. You have to get used to those big hood bulges, which is part of the TLX's design language. If you go to the sides, the rear is good. No digital camera review mirror, which is annoying, but Acura does, of course, offer their full suite of Acura Watch safety systems, where it has active lane keep assist, traffic jam assist, adaptive cruise control with full speed range, and it works fairly well. I actually like the way that Acura and Honda's adaptive cruise control system works. It just doesn't have any active lane changes or some of those higher end touches that some of the more higher end brands tend to offer, even the lower end brands. So Acura and Honda do need to work on offering something like that. But just kind of going around corners, the steering feels a little bit lighter in this mode, which is what you expect. It's not quite as heavy versus when you're in Sport Plus. And then in terms of the fuel efficiency, this car has a pretty small fuel tank at just under 16 gallons. It's rated at 1925 on premium grade gas. You're going to look at around 300 to 330 miles of range on a full tank. In my weeks worth of testing, I averaged around 20 mpg in mixed driving. Now that is just shy of the 21 the EPA rates this car at. I got around 24 mpg on some highway trips, which isn't bad, but just know that the BMW M340i with its 3-liter twin turbo or turbo inline 6 is going to get almost over 30 mpg on the highway. So this is where the high-strung nature of the TLX surprisingly is going to be at a disadvantage, and the weight. This car is heavier than most of its rivals. and it's going to mean you're going to have a slightly thirstier vehicle. This fuel efficiency could be improved if Acura just did some kind of mild hybrid, some kind of electrification, of course. But again, you probably don't buy a TLX to go, for the best fuel efficiency. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But overall, for those of you who are looking for a traditional sports sedan, I've always really loved the TLX Type S. Would I choose this over an Integra Type S? I might, because it's, it gives you all-wheel drive, it gives you more power, it gives you quicker acceleration. It's not quite as fun in the corners because it's so heavy compared to the Integra, but it is still, good at holding its own candle, especially when you start comparing it to other vehicles in this class. But really what the TLX Type S offers is a screaming deal, a screaming value. I love the fact that they've thrown in some features from the advanced package from the previous model year into this model now for 2024. So that just makes the car more appealing. And if you're guys comparing it to the German or European rivals, this car is going to undercut its rivals by thousands of dollars fully loaded. Now, back in 2021, when the TLX Type S first came out, this was technically the first Acura vehicle to reintroduce the Type S badge to America after a 2-decade-long hiatus. And I have to say, the refreshed version of the TLX continues to kind of be a great vehicle for those of you who are looking for something that's really well-rounded. As you guys saw, the horsepower from the 3-liter V6 delivers pretty good acceleration, 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. I think it's fast enough, although as an enthusiast, I kind of wanted Acura to give this car a little bit more power. In terms of the handling dynamics, the Type S does have really sharp handling, although it's not quite as sharp, of course, as something like the Integra Type S. Really, this car's extra weight is felt around the corners, but I think for those of you who prefer something a little bit more comfort-oriented, you're going to like the way this car drives and feels. Really, the interior, I think, is still a great place to spend time, especially in the front seat. For me, the tech, I think Acura did a great job with giving us a fully digital display finally and giving us that larger 12.3-inch display, although I do wish that Acura would just introduce an actual touch screen as opposed to using their touchpad. The backseat of this car, however, is still an area where I think Acura should have improved. The rear seat, it's a little bit too tight, especially given the size of this vehicle. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on the newest version of the TLX Type S, this vehicle is on sale now. They literally just started arriving at Acura showrooms pretty much this month. And the pricing for the base version, which, as you guys know, Acura got rid of the base model entirely. So the base version is now the tech package with front-wheel drive. That starts at around $45,000 plus destination. If you guys want all-wheel drive, you have to go to the A-spec model, which of course includes some sport-tuned goodies, a unique look on the outside and the inside. That starts at around $50,000. However, the Type S version, which Acura actually says accounts for about 26% of total TLX sales. That's a pretty good chunk, considering this is the most expensive and most powerful version. This car now starts at around $57,000. Now, if you guys are comparing it to a 2023 model, that's only around $1,100 more expensive versus the old TLX Type S. However, if you're comparing it to the base TLX, which used to have a base model, the price has gone up about $4,000, but really, in reality, it's now coming standard, of course, with the tech package. My tester here with the color upcharge and destination comes in at around $58,795. Now, 58 grand is actually a pretty good deal when you start looking at those segment, because if you're looking at like a BMW M340i, those are around 65 to 68 grand as equipped. A Lexus IS500 is around $62,000 to $65,000. An Audi S4 is also in the mid-60s. So Acura does offer a ton of value here. You just have to be okay with the fact that this car's backseat is a little bit on the tight side, and it also isn't quite as quick or as engaging as some of its competitors. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview here on the 2024 Acura TLX Type S. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.